I say that now. I haven't said. Oh, you're doing this. Sorry. You're welcome. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad you called on me. I've been thinking about this for years. Actually, this...
Unfortunately, you've used all your time.
Okay, well, it's nice to see you anyway. I'm a musician, and ever since being introduced to your material, I've thought about it a lot, and I write. And I've written you a whole CD of music that I want to give you to use in any way you see fit. But that isn't the real reason. The real burning question that I have is 6 years ago, my daughter...
Inspired music is the best kind, isn't it?
It is, and Abraham inspired me every time because I consciously connected with Abraham and other non-physical beings that wanted to write to create this music that expressed the ideas and the thoughts that
From inside the vortex.
From inside the vortex, exactly. Exactly. But as I said, that's not the reason, the burning question that I have, and the thing that's...
I want to ask you about a burning question.
Okay, go ahead.
Does it burn?
It's hot.
Because it's big and you're not in the vicinity of it.
I believe that's the truth.
When someone talks about a burning question, isn't that what it means? I have a desire that I'm in resistance to, and oh, the burn of that. It's a burning question. That's what you mean by a burning question, isn't it?
Yes.
And so the torture begins.
And now comes a real good part then.
So rather than calling it a burning question to which I couldn't possibly hear the answer, because when it burns, I'm not in the vibrational vicinity of it, soften it by making it more general than a burning question. But the reason, and if you've been listening to us for a while, Esther teases us because we use the same old bad joke every single time that someone says, oh, I've been waiting my whole life for this, and now, and then we always say, whoops, we're out of time. And it's our way of helping you to acknowledge when you feel that way, you can't get there from there. And so a burning question, you want to soften it. I have a question that I've had forever, still too specific and too negative. I have a question that I've been pondering for a long time, and I believe that I've put the answers and the solutions to it in my vortex. And since I'm sitting here in this gathering and have been joyously listening for so long, and the very fact that you called on me when you did means that I'm probably in a vicinity of being able to hear the answer to this formerly burning question that right now I think is just simmering in perfect readiness and ripeness for me to hear the answer. You see what we're getting at?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now we're out of time.
Okay, see you. Well, you got me. I'm speechless, and that's rare.
So lay it on us.
Well,
let us identify why it burns.
Okay. When I started listening to your information, it was about 6 years ago, and at that time my daughter committed suicide, and the thing that saved my sanity was the information was that we don't die, we just go back to pure positive energy. And I've experienced the passing of, well, I'm the last kid standing in my family, you know, but it happened in June, and June is can be a tough month for me because it was her birthday and the day time she killed herself.
Yeah.
So
because it was her birthday and her birthday.
Yes, exactly. But I want to find I try to find a place where I can stay in that happiness mode because I know she is so much happier and in such a better place, you know, and that pure positive energy, and I feel her in my heart, and I feel her all the time, and I know that she's happy for me being in this hot seat right now talking to you.
she's responsible for it.
I believe that.
You have friends in high places.
I got friends. Yeah.
So do you, conspiracy worrier. You think they're powerful? So much more going on in the vortex.
It truly is. And the thing that I want to express to, I guess to maybe say, is that the universal love that I feel from her after the crossing, even after her passing.
Well, your depth of alignment is much more
Oh,
than
I'm
it
much
ever would have been
different people.
before.
I'm way different.
But as people ponder that, they think, but Abraham, that's more of a painful price than I ever want to have to pay in order to achieve enlightenment. So I'll just pass on enlightenment. I'll just pass on it, and I'll just wallow around in overwhelmment and frustration. And I just don't need that kind of enlightenment. But the thing that we really want you to feel from this, something that you said, is the piece that we all, especially your daughter, wants to smooth out with you, is that you talk about June and how it's a tougher time because of association, and then you get lazy with your thought. You let memory and time associations direct your thought rather than letting the call of the vortex direct your thought. And then when you get a hold of a piece of it, even though it starts out kind of general, oh, this is June, that's general. It's June, and June was when she was born, more specific. Oh, it's June, and that was the time of her making her transition. Now it's more specific. So you get focused there, and then it just sucks the life right out of you because you're focused in opposition. It's not because you're focused upon a bad time. It's because you're focused in opposition to the way better time that was born out of it. In other words, because of what happened in that June, rockets were launched and your vortex expanded, and when you go with that expansion, then you celebrate the June events, both of them, because both of them were catalysts to enormous satisfaction that you have discovered that you couldn't have discovered without either of those events. But in the moment of the pain, you're not allowing the expansion, and that's all that pain's about. It's not because your daughter experienced her deliberate transition into non-physical. That's not what your pain's about. Your pain's about all of the expansion that took place because of that, and a result of that, but that you're depriving yourself of because you're looking at it through the eyes of a world who doesn't understand it. You see, yes. People are not supposed to feel good about death. You're just not. And it is the screwiest notion in the whole world because everybody, maybe we shouldn't tell you, is going to die. You're not going to stay in these physical bodies. And the closer you get to the time that you think it is a time for you, then the more you tense about it when you should be celebrating it. Because our friend wants to talk, he wants to be present. Do you know what the death experience is? Present. Present without resistance. It's so very good, you see. It's so very good. And so when you find yourself in that moment or moments when you just feel like you can't hardly stand it because of the way you feel, the thought that you just stop and say, well, this is just dumb. I'm focused. I've focused myself into pain, and I can focus myself into pleasure, and I can do it pretty darn quick if I want it enough. And the big catalyst now is you want to rendezvous not just with who you are and not just with who source is, but you want to rendezvous with who your daughter is. You said, I feel her in my heart. And we say, you don't unless you're in the vortex. And when you do, you're fully present, you see. So you just got to get over this death thing. We like to be disrespectful of it because there isn't any. We like to call it croaking. We like to mock you in your concern about it because you are eternal beings. You do not come to an end. You do not cease to be. You do not cease to be. And who you are in this vortex is so full and so present and so appreciative. And here's another thing. Ooh, you're really going to like this. And we really like saying it to you. This is along the same conversation of the theory of the vortex, the concept of it, and the fast on the heels manifestation. In other words, it's so lovely when You do the vortex work, which affects a manifestation, and now you can observe the manifestation, which makes it easier to do the vortex work. So you do the vortex work, which affects the manifestation, and now watching the manifestation makes it easier to do the vortex work. So there's just this cycling. It's like getting on a real roll.
Hello.
It's like getting on a real roll where it just gets better and better and better and better. Not ethereal, not fairy dust, not conceptual, not intangible, but tangible, manifestational. In other words, it translates into all of this. So in that same understanding, when you accept the reality of the eternalness of your being and the eternalness of your daughter's being, you allow her now presence to manifest into your experience, so that her thoughts are your thoughts, so that you hear the conversation, so that her influence affects your manifestation. You see what we're getting at? In other words, there's no separation. There is no separation other than the one that you all have defined. And you define it for logical reasons. There are obvious beginnings and endings to your physical experiences. You have the birth experience and you have what you call the death experience. We get that, but there is so much more continuity to who you are than most of you who have been allowing yourself to experience. And those like you who have been sitting and listening to us so patiently, even eagerly, for hours on end, talk about the vortex influence on manifestation, will have a different experience with everyone you know who makes their transition, because in other words, when someone says, well, I'll pray for you, and you think, well, that's comforting, but blah, blah, blah. Or, in other words, there's a difference between the idea of something and the actual vibrational effect of something, you see. And the actual vibrational effect of it is a manifestation. So what we're saying to you is, those who make their transition don't go into non-physical oblivion where you don't have access to them. If you're in the vicinity, you have greater access to them than you've ever had. And you can rendezvous with them in meaningful ways, just like you're rendezvousing with meaningful flight attendants or meaningful people along the way. So there's no separation. Good time
Thank you
for a
so
segment
much.
of refreshment.